We are in the eclipse season, and I have a new free guide for you at quietmindastrology.com/eclipse September 2025. The link is in the notes as well. And you can get this free PDF guide that goes through all of the major shifts happening in September, how it relates to the last eclipse season back in March, and how it works for your rising and moon sign. So I'm going to do a few episodes on this because it's such a big topic. And this is the first one where I'm going to look at the last eclipse season, which was in March 2025, which was the most transformational month of the whole year. We had a lot happen in March with Saturn transit and the eclipse season, and we've gone through Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter transits this year. So a lot of big movements in 2025. And that eclipse season in March opened a doorway of endings and realignments that are still echoing in this current season. That Uttara Phalguni lunar eclipse in Leo on the 13th of March forced us to confront unhealthy dynamics in relationships and power struggles, asking us to lead from authenticity instead of ego. So you may have had to address some issues in relationships and things that need to be talked about, and not just the relationship with the other person, but that's always a reflection of your relationship to self. And as one of my teachers would say, there's only ever one relationship that we're in. It is between you and God or source or higher power or the universe or whatever you call that, whatever that is for you. So when you work on that relationship, you may find that there's places where you're needed to make some realignments back in March, and it needed to let go of ways of controlling, which is what the ego does, and step into new ways of vulnerability and connection. The Uttara Bhadrapada solar eclipse in Pisces that was on March 29th dissolved what was no longer sustainable, clearing away illusions and pushing us towards surrender and spiritual truth. Ishvari Pranidhana, surrendering and trusting in a higher power, which is one of the parts of the 10 yamas and niyamas of yoga philosophy, of living on a spiritual path, to trust in something bigger than ourselves, which is by definition scary and vulnerable and uncertain. But that was part of the lesson of March, to change these unhealthy dynamics in relationships, starting with relationship to self and source, and clear away illusions and move towards more trust in a higher power, spirit, source, and or walking with faith. I like the idea from the Bible that faith without works is dead. So it's like if you trust the universe, if you trust the higher power, whatever that is for you, if you believe there's some sort of bigger purpose, then the best way to show that is to take an act of faith, to follow your heart, to do something that seems uncertain and risky but aligned. And there's an opportunity in March to do that. And now as we move into September and the eclipses in Purva Phalguni in Leo and Purva Bhadrapada in Aquarius, we revisit similar themes but at a new level. So what began as endings in March now asks us to be integrated and expressed through fresh beginnings in love, creativity, and community, finding opportunities and ways to be of greater service in your work, your community, the causes you care about. This is a continuation of the storyline where March cut cords. September invites us to step into new roles, relationships, and spiritual commitments. Now, this could involve your spiritual practices, it could involve communities you're part of, or causes you care about. But it's a move from the self to selflessness, from the ego to the amigos. And it's an opportunity here to move towards a healthy sense of ego, a new identity of something that's more aligned with your bigger purpose. So we had these major challenges back in March, around early March, about addressing relationship imbalances, struggles around boundaries, tension between independence and commitment. So you may have been facing those issues back in March. There were opportunities to clarify your partnerships and what you want and what's aligned, for strengthening healthy bonds and stepping into authentic leadership in your love and in your work. So reflect back on early March, how those themes showed up for you. And you can check where Leo is in your birth chart for more on that. And of course, you can listen back to the old episodes on this as well. And then the end of March, we had the new moon solar eclipse. And there were some challenges there around confusion, endings, what it's time to let go of, grief, what it's time to process the end of, dissolving old identities, and fear of losing control. And the opportunities there at the end of March were around spiritual renewal, letting go of karmic baggage, trusting in your intuition, and awakening compassion and surrender, trust in the bigger picture. So again, reflect for yourself how those themes showed up for you. And in Pisces, wherever that is in your chart, for example, for Virgo risings and moons, that's the 7th house for Pisces is. So this was all about relationships. For Pisces rising, it was your 1st house, for Pisces moon as well. So big lessons here in March, really transformative time. So good to reflect on that now as we are closing fully that portal from March, and we're at the end of the 6-month window, the eclipse window, and now into the new cycle. So if you need a little moment, just pause, reflect, journal, meditate, and just look at your calendar, like what happened in March that relates to these themes. How did it show up for you? I'd love to hear in the comments if you want to let me know. Any thoughts or comments are always welcome on Spotify and YouTube. So now we're caught up to the current eclipse season of September 2025, about releasing drama and reclaiming your vision. So this eclipse season highlights the tension between individuality and community, endings and beginnings. The lunar eclipse in Purva Bhadrapada in Aquarius on September 7th asks you to release outdated group roles, social conditioning, and beliefs that no longer align, choosing instead to honor your individuality while still contributing meaningfully to the collective. So one of the ways this shows up for me personally is in moving towards a more healthy ego. So, like for example, I've resisted focusing on social media or these things that I think can be a little more superficial, but they can be great tools and a great service to people. So there's a part of me that has avoided them in fear of like getting too much in my ego about them or too attached to these things. But that in itself becomes a form of ego and a form of attachment, of like withholding sharing on these platforms, which have their own strengths and their own gifts. And there's a healthy sense of ego of like, this actually can contribute to helping more people. And it's a role that I can play that can be of service and contribution. And it's not necessarily superficial or bad. It's just what you make of it. Just a tool. But it's actually a form of ego to attach to that idea that it has to be superficial or by nature it is or something like that. Instead, it can be a sort of play and have fun with it. And that can be a sense of surrender and trust and service and sharing my gifts. So that's an example for me how it's shown up recently, and noticing that and finding the value in sharing on those kind of platforms. So again, for yourself, considering your roles in groups and societies, and it could be social media, it could be among peers or friends or projects or social causes you're involved in, seeing where you can be more aligned and honor your individuality and contribute meaningfully to others. Then 2 weeks later, the solar eclipse in Purva Phalguni in Leo on September 21st brings a reset in love, creativity, and joy, asking you to choose between clinging to appearances or stepping into authentic self-expression. Together, these eclipses present a karmic turning point, clearing space in relationships, communities, and creative pursuits so you can align with deeper joy, authentic leadership, and a vision that reflects your true self. Now, as always, the Leo energy is about identity and roles and power and ego. And having the solar eclipse there, K2 there, it's about letting go of ways of control and ego and attachment, and opportunity in Purva Phalguni to reset your ego in relationship and the role in relationship. As many great teachers say about relationships, the reason you're in a relationship is to be of service, not to get something, but to give something. And there's a lesson in that as well. So I have all of the dates here on the free guide that you can get again at the link below in the show notes. And the eclipse season is not just the days of the eclipse, but it's the 6 week window around it. So 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. So it officially really starts on 8/23 with the new moon in Maga in Leo. And that's August 23rd. So opportunities from August 23rd to September 7th to reconnect with purpose, to honor your ancestors, and step into leadership with humility. There could be challenges around ego flare ups, authority issues, power struggles, and a pressure to prove yourself coming up around this time. And then on September 7th, right around this date and this window from the full moon, there's deep insights into your future vision, breakthroughs in group work, spiritual awakening through detachment. And there could be some challenges of feeling pulled between community versus individuality, overwhelmed with collective challenges, heightened anxiety. I think there's a whole cultural concern now around AI and its role in society and how it could replace a lot of jobs potentially, and the anxiety that comes with that, and the sense of what is the role of humanity and the purpose. But this is something I've been exploring myself as well, and noticing fears and anxieties coming up, and you may as well. But ultimately, we always need human interaction, no matter how good a computer is. It's basically AI is just like a fancier Google, which we've had Google now for decades, and we get it. Its role in society could never really replace a human. So we just have a more interactive version of Google now that seems like it can do human things, but it will sort of settle into society as realizing it just can't. And we need human connection. So there is a part of this whole cycle of finding the place of self and community, and the need for others, and the need for connection, and the need for causes and groups and things that we care about, and being part of those things. So if you feel like you're not connected with those, I highly encourage exploring that. Like, is there a local spiritual community you could get involved in, or volunteering, or donating, or a cause that you care about? Also, online communities as well can be valuable. So exploring that may be beneficial for you around this time. And you can have deep insights again into your future vision and breakthroughs of what you want to create in this new chapter of life. And then on the new moon, the 21st, there's an opportunity to release old attachments, start fresh in love and creativity, and to realign with your authenticity and your joy. So it's an opportunity, a new beginning in relationships, setting the stage of the next 6 months to the next eclipse cycle. But there could be some disruptions in relationships, some disruptions in creative projects that get stalled, and possible over dramatization or conflicts with the Leo drama queen energy that could arise here in the solar eclipse. As always, remember on the day of eclipses, avoid any major decisions when possible, because you're usually not thinking so clearly, and you may need to rethink the decisions you make on those days. It's heightened intensity, and it's often you don't quite think your best on these days. So avoid Sunday the 7th and the 21st, any major decisions. But around these times, you are having this big choice, and that'll be the topic of the next episode, around the choice to be made in this eclipse window, and more clarity on what that is for your rising and moon sign. And then the window closes on October 6th with the full moon in Revati in Pisces, closing the 6 week window. Or now we are into October, and new themes arising, and lots of new stuff coming in October as well, like Jupiter's transit to talk about. But this day, the 6th, October 6th, can bring deep healing, compassion, completion of cycles, spiritual clarity through surrender. There could be some very sensitive energy, emotional oversensitivity, confusion, escapism, and difficulty focusing on that day. But spiritually, it's a very enriching, important day, October 6th, very important for doing spiritual practices on every day of these eclipse cycles, but especially on the 6th, where there can be a big sense of completion and fullness and resolution of the challenges and the portal you've moved through September. So again, we'll continue on in the next episode talking about the choice to make around these dates and help you clarify what that is for your rising and moon sign. If you find this helpful, please share it with a friend, get the free download at the link below, and leave a comment on Spotify and YouTube to let me know what's resonating with you and what you'd like to see in future episodes. All right, I'll see you soon.